Hey Team SISD, how you doing? Anthony Pacheco here for your week 2 drum set lesson number 2. So as you saw in the last lesson, we kind of went over what your jazz band swing rhythm is in drum set, and so I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate that real quick just for a refresher. So that's your jazz band swing rhythm for drum set, and now today I'm kind of gonna continue with that, but I'm gonna show some variations, that will be very helpful because sometimes we're not always playing a shout section and we're not always playing the snare drum. You might want to go into a cross stick or to a little bit of a tom thing, and I'll discuss that right now. I'll also be showing a couple of drum fills that you can use and that are easy to know right away. So that you can start practicing on it and get better at it. So for today's lesson, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and move this hi-hat real quick because we're going to talk about the cross stick. The cross stick has a couple of other names like a rim click or a rim knock, but the pretty professional name for it is cross stick. The common name for it is a cross stick, and it sounds like this. So, for the cross stick technique, usually I have all our fingers on the stick. So it's like, you have your fulcrum and you have your 3 back fingers all on the stick. The thing I like to do is I like to leave this part of my hand, the bottom part of my palm, on the drum. And so it's all flat, and then you have your fingers on the stick, if you can see. And when you lift it up, I tend to leave still this part of my hand on the drum, and then I come down for the strike and I hit the rim. So go ahead and pause the video and see if you can just do that for a couple of moments, just to get this kind of going. And you don't want to be going like this where you're lifting up your hand, or you don't want to be letting go. You want to keep your fingers on the stick. So go ahead and pause the video and come back so we can continue. Alright, I hope you're able to work out your cross stick. So again, this is what it looks like. Cool. So now another thing to think about is if you have a drum in front of you, a snare drum or whatever your drum set, go ahead and try it out. But if you notice, whenever you move your stick around the rim or the circumference of the drum, you're going to know that there's different pitches and you can hear that. So I'm going to go ahead and play around the drum a little bit. Oh, sorry about that. So, with that being said, it's kind of a little game. I like to try to find the best sounding click overall from the drum. So let's try this one right here. That's not bad. Maybe over here. Maybe a little bit more fuller, right? So usually there's a sweet spot on the rim, and your goal is to try to find that sweet spot so that whenever you play your clicks, you can always just continue to hit there. And another thing I didn't mention, I'm going to mention, is that when you are hitting your rim clicks, it's going to be on the shoulder of the stick, the beefiest part of the stick, which is right here, the shoulder. And you don't want to ever hit it with the closer to the top of the stick or the tip, or you don't want to go super to the middle or the body. So you always want to hit it in the shoulder. So this is what it would. So again, when you practice this, make sure your fingers are on the stick and your bottom part of your palm is still on the drum. You don't want to be lifting up, and also make sure that your fingers stay on the stick when you hit it. So now that we got that covered, I'm going to go ahead and introduce a couple of different variations for the swing rhythm with cross stick. So the first one is basically your 2 and 4. Instead of playing it on snare, you're going to play it on the rim. So again, going back to the swing rhythm, if you're still not comfortable playing everything together, go ahead and play quarter notes like this. The only difference is make sure that you have a swing fill in your head. So you don't want to be playing it straight where you're going. You want to be able to have a swing fill. One moment. So just make sure you have that swing fill in your head whenever you're playing quarter notes. But if you're comfortable adding the skip note or the bump, go ahead and add the cross stick when you're comfortable. Well, both ways, quarter note or the eighth note or the skip note. So with that being said, let's go ahead and I'm going to show you what it sounds like with the cross stick. As you can see, I was feathering my bass drum, lightly tapping the bass drum. I had my hats on 2 and 4. I had my ride with the swing ride pattern, and then I had a cross stick on 2 and 4. This is usually the most common whenever you're not playing loud, and you do not want to be playing the snares all the time where it's repetitive and it sounds like, it's getting boring. So the cross stick is always a good option. And especially even if your teacher tells you to lower the volume or to play softer, this is always a good option. So cross stick on 2 and 4, that's one variation. The next variation I like to do, another popular one, is playing the cross stick just on beat 4. So it would sound like this. So, the difference between that is when you're playing 2 and 4, if it's a driving section but you want to make sure that you're at a soft volume, 2 and 4 is usually the best, option where you can just kind of drive it, and people are still able to feel you, keeping the tempo together and holding it together. And with cross stick on 4, usually it's a little bit, when you're laying it back, when it's very relaxed. You're not trying to drive them so much. You just got this real spacey type of swing pattern. So I'm gonna go ahead and try it again. I'm gonna play it again for you, and then I want you to pause the video and I want you to try not only this one but the one for 2 and 4. And then when you come back, we'll discuss the other variation. So let me play it one more time, and then you go ahead and give it a try. 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and give it a try, and then come back to this video. Alright, and we're back. So I'm hoping you were able to figure out, the cross stick variations, the first 2 that I gave you, which is 2 and 4, so I'll go ahead and play that real quick. 1, 2, 3, And then we have another variation, which is the beat 4 of the cross stick only. So 1, 2, 3. Those were your first 2 variations, and again, we did go over the cross stick, what the best technique for that was. So this is the 3rd variation, and this one's real fun. I like to use it, whenever there's a solo happening, or like the soli of a section, the trumpets, saxophones, trombones, whatever is playing. Just depending on the setting. So this one, it includes a cross stick on beat 2, and then on beat 4, we play the tom. And we're going to be playing the tom on beat 4 and the end of 4, or the tail of 4, however you count it. So I'm going to go ahead and just demonstrate that real quick, and then you can see how this works. I'm going to go ahead and bring this in real quick. 1, 2, 3. So that's the variation that I like to add sometimes, and the biggest thing about this one is just getting the transition from the rim to the tom. And I had a lot of trouble with it when I was younger, like when I was in middle school. Sometimes I would hit the tom and then the stick would fall, or just I couldn't, or I would go here and I couldn't come back on time. So I'll be breaking that down so it's a little bit easier to think of. So again, when we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 1. So what I think of is the counts to lift off the drum from the snare. So you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So you lift up on the downbeat of 3, 1, 2, 3, right? And then you play your tom, 1, and then you come back down on 2. So the cool part about from playing 4 and you have that one count to come back and play beats 2. And as you see, I kind of did a bad example of what I don't want you to do, which is kind of putting everything flat like that. Again, like I mentioned, keep your fingers on the stick, so you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. So, again, when you're playing this, remember, lift up your drum, lift off the rim on beats 3, play your 4 and then you have your count of beat 1 to get back to the rim, which will hit on beat 2. So you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Another thing I want to mention, because again I even just saw myself do it, you don't want to make it so robotic, so straight. Kind of relax with it. You know, if you have to start slow, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You have to start slow, go ahead and do that. So with that being said, pause the video and go ahead and give that a try. Just getting going. Make sure that you're not trying to miss the beat or anything. It's a real fun group, so pause the video, give it a couple of tries, and then we'll conclude the lesson after this. All 3 variations of using our cross stick in the swing pattern. So here we go. I'm going to do 2 and 4 on cross stick, and then beat 4 cross stick, and then our beat 2, and then 4 tom, cross stick tom variation. Cool? So here we go. 1, 2, 3. There. So, to wrap this up, before we get into the drum fills real quick, that's an exercise I like to do, is where I do 4 measures of each. So again, as you saw that I started off with 2 and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then after the 4th measure, the next set of 4 bars, I just do the one that only hits on beat 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then after that set of 4, the next 4, I play the 3rd variation, which is the cross stick on 2 and tom on 4, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3. And with that being said, you can use this as an exercise, not only to build up, your independence with the swing pattern, but you can also use it to practice your cross stick. And remember, you want to make sure that you find the sweet spot in the drum. So if it sounds real light, it's like super dull or super light, or it just doesn't sound right, just experiment with it, You always want to find a good spot that sounds very cool, and yeah, that's what you want to do with that. So, the last thing we'll cover is a drum fill that everybody, whenever you're joining jazz band for the first time as a drummer, that you should check out and you should know. it has a couple of names. It goes by Deputy Dog. I call it Bucket of Fish. You can come up with your own lettering for it. But basically, it's a drum fill that helps set up the upbeats. And in jazz, we have a lot of upbeats, right? So we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? So this drum fill right here is used with the triplet on a downbeat, and then a kick drum on the next beat after that, and then it sets up the upbeat, and you usually hit that with the crash. I know it kind of sounds complicated right now, but I'll break it down. So we're gonna go ahead and use the upbeats of 1, the te of 1, right? So if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and that's gonna be our accent of the setup that we're gonna hit. Okay. So the way that I like to think of it is we have a triplet on the downbeat, right, of the beat before. So if we're gonna set up the te of 1, we're gonna have a triplet on beat 4, right, and then we're gonna add our kick drum on beat 1. So it would sound like this: 1, 2, 3, right? 4 lolly 1, and then your crash would be the te of 1. So you have this: 1, 2, 3. Cool? So now I want you to go ahead and just try that. We're gonna do just set up the te of 1. So just remember, your triplet starts on beat 4, 4 blah, and then your kick drum on 1. You have, and then your crash on the end of 1, or the te of 1. So go ahead and pause the video and give that a try, and then we're gonna put it together, and we'll conclude the lesson. This drum fill, the triplet falls on a downbeat. So we just go back 1 downbeat. So what's before 3? Beat 2, right? So we have a triplet on 2. So we have 2 low, and then on beat 3 we have the kick drum, and then on the te of 3 we have the crash with the snare. So it would sound like this: 1, 2. And so that's how that fill would work. Let's go ahead and pick out another one. So the te of 4. So think about it real quick. Te of 4. I have to set up on the beat before that. So what do we have? 3, right? So we have 3 low, and then 4 te. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play an example, so you can see how you can use this in your exercise. Cool? So, when you break this down, the most important thing is getting that triplet before the beat that you're going to be setting the upbeat of, right? So, for instance, te of 3, you hit the triplet on 2, right? The te of 4, you hit the triplet on 3. The te of 1, triplet on 4. So, if you see the pattern here, you're able to kind of see where I'm going, right? Just make sure that once you do that fill, so you have, make sure that you go back to the ride, and I would usually do quarter notes because quarter notes kind of solidify that we have a tempo going. So don't worry about trying to do skip notes right away, like once you go. Because in case you do play the wrong skip note on the wrong beat, it'll throw off everybody else. So I would like you to use quarter notes when you get back to it. So it'd be like this. 1, 2, 3. So take your time as you build up this fill. And just make sure you start off with quarter notes to get back into the tempo. Because, again, like I said, it's most important that you want to keep everybody together. You're not trying to show off what you can do in one song. You don't want to be trying to play all this crazy stuff. You just want to play a fill that's able to set up the band and help them with their music, right? Or working together, basically. So I hope you take that, the cross stick patterns, the variations, and this drum fill to help you practice. And again, we will keep continuing lessons every week. So hope you have a good week, and I'll see you in the next lesson.